Hey everyone, I think I should be audible now. There's a delay between what I'm saying and the chat, as always, because my internet is not that fast here. So that's a thing. Uh, I see we have some YouTube members in the chat. Hey guys, and hey everyone in the chat. I'm here a little early actually, which is a bit unusual, but yeah, this should be a really fun stream. As I said in my Twitter and YouTube post advertising this stream, this is my last stream from this location, which should be interesting. And yeah, I'm pretty excited for it. We're going to talk about the London Underground and the New York subway. We'll do Q&A. We could do all kinds of different stuff. So there's a lot of different fun things coming in this stream. As always, if you're not already, there's a link in the description to this stream with the next stream links. You can set a reminder, and that way you won't miss the next live stream that I'm doing. Also, if you haven't already, consider checking out my second channel, because my second channel has lots of interesting behind the scenes and stuff that isn't necessarily transit related that I think is sometimes people ask me questions about, and so I just sort of separated the non-transit from the transit for the most part. So that's the um uh, um I'm just reading some of the chat. But yeah, so there's that. If you haven't already, go check out today's video on Edmonton hype. Right, that video is not getting as many views as I would have hoped, but I think, and I think it's because Edmonton is just, people don't think about it that much, and I think that's why it's a good video to watch. I definitely put a lot of work into every video, so my view would be to try to watch, like, just because you're from one place, don't feel like you won't learn anything or it's irrelevant if a video isn't about a city that you necessarily live near or are even in the same country as, because I always try to tie in tons of international examples to every video, and that's always been like sort of a tenet of my channel, is that I'm an internationalist for transit. I want to look at every system, I want to compare various things, and so yeah, I think that's exciting. I guess I can also announce today, at some point a little later on, what the city that I keep referring to doing a video on is. I've made a post about it, I've been talking about it quite a bit because it's going to be a big video. Almost Tokyo scale, not quite Tokyo scale, but it's going to be a huge video, and that's coming next week. So it's crazy. And then, of course, again, I'm on a bit early, but I guess I can say it's been an interesting time. It seems like COVID is slowly fading, at least in Ontario, which is exciting. No travel yet, but that's something that I'm starting to think about, so that's cool. And I saw a movie in the theater yesterday, which was awesome. So yeah, it's been an interesting week. I'm going to take a quick look at my topics to discuss and my various chats, and then I will take a look at the live chat, and I'll answer some comments and stuff. Yes, so people are asking about the second channel. I'll link it and pin it here. I'm also going to talk about an important policy change, which I kind of figure if you're watching the stream, you're sort of in the insider club for the channel, because not everyone watches the stream, and I get it. Streams can kind of be a little intimidating because they're often long, and I know not everyone has the time. But if you do come and watch these streams, it's super appreciated. It's a lot of fun for me, actually. And it's just very unique. Unlike my videos, I actually get to interact with the audience live, which is cool. And so, yeah, I appreciate that. And at the same time, yeah, I'll give you guys lots of insider info, and I tend to talk more about different stuff. So I'm just going to quickly go through the chat. My new policy is I cannot reply to every message because there are just so many. But I'll try to hit the ones I think are most interesting. Sorry if I don't reply to your comment. It is also possible that I just miss it. Do you work in the transit sector is the first question. And it's a question I actually think I should discuss maybe directly in a video. But yes, is the answer. Uh, I, I have a job as a transit planner, or at least I have previously had a job as a transit planner or transportation planner, if that is the term you prefer to use. And I still currently do consulting on transit, which is cool. It's a very interesting opportunity to have. So yes, and I've worked on big transit projects, which is a really awesome opportunity that I couldn't have said a few years ago, but I can say now. And so yes, I am in the transit sector, uh, which yeah, cool, awesome. Um, Someone saying New York Transit and the TTC came at the same time. TTC only has 72 stations. New York has like 450. Sort of why is it like this? I don't think it's really a fair comparison between Toronto and New York City. You have to remember that New York City has as many people in the actual city itself, not like the suburbs and the region, as Toronto has in its entire region. It's just a way bigger city, and obviously one of the wealthiest cities in the world, and so just what is possible is sort of different. And New York started building its subway decades earlier than Toronto, and I would argue that it was the earlier you started, kind of the easier it was, because let's be honest, safety was less of a concern, disruption was often less of a concern, development wasn't as widespread in various cities, and so New York started 50 years before Toronto did, and I think that gave it the opportunity to get really big really fast, right? If you look at recent expansion, Toronto is growing a lot faster than New York, right? New York is actually struggling to build stuff. Not that any large city is going to struggle to build stuff, but New York is these days. So it's an interesting dynamic. I'm just going to grab something. I ordered bubble tea. So, because I often get a dry mouth on these live streams, and so I decided let's order a bubble tea. And this is a casual chat, right? We're just casually chatting. I'm having my bubble tea. I'm actually just gonna leave it in this like takeout bag because, which looks really weird and sketchy and gross, but it's just a cup in a bag. This mango bubble tea is awesome. It's from Cha Time. Not sponsored, but if you guys want to hit me up, that would be great. I would be happy for that sponsorship. No conflicting interest there. You know, I love my Cha Time. Let's keep looking. If you're just joining the stream now, usual stuff. Link to the next stream is in the description below. Link to my second channel is pinned in the live stream chat. And yeah, let's keep going. I'm going to talk about a bunch of different topics today, but I'm just kind of casually scrolling through the chat right now. So yeah, this is the last stream from this location. The question is, what is the next location going to be? I'm moving to the center of my city, the city center of Toronto. I'm going to be way closer to transit. I'm going to have better internet, which means hopefully this can happen more real time than it's been happening, and that opens up some opportunities for things like game streaming and stuff, if that's ever of interest to people. I think people mentioned it in comments. So yeah, I'm super excited, mainly because, I mean, I live in an area with good transit, but that's still pretty car-oriented, and so, like, when I'm walking, and I'm made to, like, walk halfway around the block because the sidewalk is closed, that's the sort of thing I'm excited to not have to deal with as much when I move. So that's really exciting. I see, again, there's some YouTube members here. If you're not, consider becoming a YouTube member or joining on Patreon for early access to videos and for special emotes like the ones I'm going to send in the chat right now. You can use them in comments and you get a badge and stuff. It's a great way of helping the channel, and yeah, it's appreciated. Do you use Nexa as your font? Yep. I actually have links to all of that stuff in my description. So for sort of those sort of technical questions, you can always take a look at my description. Apparently the audio quality has a problem. Maybe someone can comment on it. I am really late to the party though, so if it's truly terrible, that's a bit late. Can you do a video on the Tyne and Ware Metro? Yeah, definitely at some point. Someone says they want to shout out to Ryan the Gay Boy. So there you go. Hopefully this is not meant to be a joke or anything, and someone actually wants a shout out. Joaquin is saying greetings from Chile. Hey, Joaquin. I will do videos on every major city in the world, given enough time and given people will become patrons and stuff, and I'm able to make this like a long-term thing. Obviously, when I become like a full-time YouTuber, I think I'll be able to make content at a slightly faster rate, and I'll make it a bit more official what my sort of plans are. But yeah, I have a lot of plans for covering various places. Pay more attention around tracks by introducing third rail on trams? I don't think so. I like the street to be safe. Hello, Reece Peace. Oh, hello to you. Hello from India. It's midnight here. Well, I much appreciate that you're here. Someone is saying, for who should I vote in the Montreal election? Unfortunately, I don't delve into politics, and I don't really tell people who to vote for. What you can do is look at people's transit policies and other policies, obviously, but I'm talking about transit because that's what I do. And just, compare them. Who wants to build the most transit and who is most credible, right? You can say you want to build a lot, but if your plan is like, we're going to build underground metro to everywhere, that's a little suspicious because money doesn't grow on trees, right? Hi from Tijuana, Mexico. Hi there. Hey Reece, what do you think about Milan's M4? I need to remind myself what the M4 is like, so sadly I cannot react in this video, but I'll probably do a Milan explained video because it's not a huge metro system, which is important because I can't always be doing like London, New York and stuff, right? Which is why Tyne, Ware, and Milan and stuff are great because as I said, I'm working on a massive explain for next week, and I'll announce what it is a little later in the stream. But the video, just to write the script, the initial writing of the script, and fortunately someone from the channel helped me with it. At least they gave me some pointers. I could get some fact checks from them and stuff. But it took probably like 16 plus hours. The script is over 10,000 words. It's just massive and heavy. Writing scripts is really tiring and exhausting. And not only do you just write it, but when you write something that long, the quality of a writing often becomes questionable, and you have to go back through it and make sure you're not repeating yourself too often and stuff. So yeah, I just got on a huge tangent. Sorry about that. Do you like the Manchester Metrolink? I think it has its ups and downs. I think surface trams always have their issues. Let's just say that. But reusing rail lines is a great approach. Bubble tea. Oh. Sorry, I just got hit by a ton of messages, so I'm just scrolling. I'll try to fly through these again. I can't reply to everything. When do you think Ottawa's Line 1 will be running again? Apparently it could be months because of some of the equipment that was damaged, which is concerning. Greetings from Bristol, UK, the city that mass transit forgot. I've been to Bristol. Nice city. Are you planning any future videos about India? Yes, lots of videos about India. But remember that, like, with any country besides Canada, it's always going to be a little bit of time. I think in the next month you'll definitely see a video about India, and like I'll do plenty of videos about India in the future. I just always try to move around because I don't want to just like favor one geography over others. Of course, it is easier for me to do videos on like the US because I'm so close. But yeah, like I want to talk about the Delhi RRTS. It's a very interesting project. I want to talk about the dedicated freight rail corridor project. I want to talk about the high-speed rail projects. So there's a lot of stuff I'm planning to discuss about India in the future, and stuff that's super important on like a global scale because India is a giant country that we need to talk about. I saw the U of T sweater in one of your videos. It's in many of my videos. I wear U of T stuff a lot. I did my bachelor's there. Yeah, maybe I'll do a master's at some point. I was going to do a master's actually last year, and I decided not to because I got an opportunity to work as a transportation planner. So yeah, someone is kind of spamming the chat. Please don't do that because I will reply to you, but it just takes time. I'm always a bit behind. Please get a quieter keyboard. It's like being inside a pair of maracas. Well, I don't really type during stream. If I do, I type a tiny bit. Come on, if I have a satisfying keyboard, I want to type more and make more videos, so that should be a good thing, right? Oh, I agree. I would love to have like a low-profile keyboard, but again, I'm moving soon, so a lot of my stuff is packed away. It's something I'll consider for the future, especially if I'm doing more on my keyboard during streams. Shanghai Metro video coming anytime soon. There'll be a video probably on Shanghai at some point, but it's not like my top priority. And I think that's, honestly, I've said it before and I'll say it again, a lot of the systems in China I don't find them necessarily that fascinating. Of course, I'll talk about them more and I'll do more videos, but a lot of them are pretty uniform and they don't necessarily have a ton of unique features, and the ones that do are not necessarily Shanghai. I've talked about some of them in my videos in the past, but yeah, you can expect more, but yeah, just be patient. Do your opinions on public transport change from user experience? Yeah, oftentimes. There's a lot you can't tell about a system if you don't ride it, but there's a lot that you can tell if you are at a distance and by talking to people locally. And something I want to mention, I'm not necessarily replying to a comment here that I get sometimes. Okay, sometimes I do get comments where people are like, you should consult locals about a video or something like that. I virtually always talk to someone who lives in the city I'm making a video about when I make a video about a city. So that's a useful disclaimer. If you ever see a comment where people are like, you haven't talked to people locally or you don't know what you're talking about, I always talk to someone locally when making a video. So yeah. Again, I am going to get into some bigger topics, but I'd like to try to make my way to the bottom of the chat before. Difference between, I'm going to skip that for now, sorry. Who's better at service quality, SEPTA or Go Transit? I mean, if you're talking about in relation to the infrastructure, Go, because Go has way less infrastructure and yet they operate a lot of regular, high-quality services. SEPTA has so much infrastructure and doesn't operate super high frequencies a lot of the time or high frequencies at all. Is there a Moscow Metro video coming? I'm going to say that's not the video that's coming in the next week or so, but definitely there will be a Moscow Metro video. If it's a major metro system, London, New York, Moscow, Shanghai, all of these big cities, they will 100% be made in probably like the next year, hopefully. Again, these huge systems just take a long time, and Delhi too, like that's another one I want to do. They just take a long time to make. I will say that if you are from one of those cities, join the Discord and just kind of check in now and then, because sometimes I will be posting in the future, hey, does anyone live in the city? I also do that on Twitter, so if you haven't already, follow me on Twitter. I'll say, does anyone live in the city? And it's good to get in touch with people who can read over my script before I actually make the video and just say like, oh, like maybe you should mention this, or oh, XYZ about something that I might not know because I am not a local. And there's some things that are harder to find in research online. So there's that. I mean, of course, I have like past knowledge, but then also sometimes people are like, hey, I have footage. Like, for example, some great guys, or I should just say great folks, from today's video in Edmonton, they provided some of the footage. And so like, if it's possible, if you have really good high quality pictures or footage, it's possible to put them in a video if people want to do that. And I think that's a pretty cool opportunity. I'll tour the London Underground next week. What's your favorite line? Piccadilly. What's the difference between tram and light rail? Someone asking, what flavor is my bubble tea? It's mango, which is a flavor that I never liked mango, and then a month ago, I was like, wow, mango. It's actually great. I will probably do a video about the differences between various rolling stock, yeah. My favorite bubble tea stop requiring a stopover is what made me desire time-based transfers. I don't think Northgate is overbuilt. I think it seems pretty appropriate relative to its size. Are you planning on doing a video about the differences? Okay, some people keep commenting. Please don't do that because it makes it very hard for me to actually follow what's going on. Yep, I will be talking about the freight corridors, the dedicated freight corridors in India. Someone says, how do you make high quality videos daily? That's an interesting question, and I appreciate you asking, and I appreciate you saying my videos are high quality because, you know, as a YouTuber, you get lots of comments. Um, so I'm very dedicated to YouTube. I'm pretty tired this morning because I stayed up until 7 a.m. this morning. I stayed up all night working on this big explained video that's coming next week. I do a lot of all-nighters. I work really hard. I've always worked hard in my life, I think. It's something, you know, since high school I've focused on a lot. Okay, I'm just making sure my screen wasn't totally frozen. And so, yeah, that and the fact that I have a long list of videos I want to make. And often those come from streams and comments and stuff. And so I think a lot of the time, I mean, making a video takes a lot of time. Any video, honestly, takes hours and hours to make. But if you know what videos you want to make, that helps a lot. Because if you can't even come up with an idea, that's a big barrier. So since I have a long list, that's one of the biggest barriers out of the way. I would say, more than other YouTubers I know, I prioritize making a lot of videos. And I don't, in my opinion, sacrifice my content quality. You know what you're getting. Like, if it's a talking head video where I'm, like, appearing on screen, there's going to be less B-roll and maps. It's something I try to increase, and, you know, if I have extra time on a video, because I do have tight deadlines, because I release frequently, then I will add more maps and pictures, and I'm always trying to expand that, and, you know, in the future, if I'm a full-time YouTuber, that will increase a lot more, too. You know, those videos, you sort of know what you're getting when you watch one, right? And then I do other videos. So when I do a video of a station, like Station Focus, which I think are one of my favorite series of videos to do, or when I go check out a construction project, or when I go to an opening of a metro line, those videos are basically all filmed, you know, IRL videos. There's a little less barrier, but, you know, you get video for the whole time. You've got your talking heads, which is a different style of video. Both of those videos, they take a lot of work, but they take less work than some other types of videos. I have, again, vlog style videos, and then I have the explained videos, which always have maps and images and video throughout the entire video. Often they're about 20 minutes long. They take a long time to write. I voice the whole thing. Those videos, they come out once every couple weeks because they just take a lot of work. But you kind of know with my channel, that's what you're getting. And so I guess just prioritizing making a lot of content, because I would rather talk about a lot of things, because I feel like if I don't make enough videos, there's so many topics I just will never cover, and I think it's more important to bring light to a lot of important, like, cities that people don't talk about, like Mexico City, for example, a city people rarely talk about that has this fantastic metro system, or Delhi, or the systems in India that people aren't really talking about. These are things I want to do, and making more videos is what enables me to talk about more places. Whew, okay, I am really needing to hurry this up. So someone is commenting, don't make content at a faster rate. It hurts your videos in the algorithm. Actually, that's not my experience. I have been doing YouTube for a long time now, like years and years, and unless you're making videos multiple times a day, it doesn't really hurt you, from my experience. I've tested lots of different, like, release schedules, and making content, I would say, up to daily, you know, you're fine for the algorithm. It's when you start getting, you know, you're releasing 2 videos a day, or you're releasing 2 videos in a very short succession, that's when things are not as good. But it's also based on, like, the audience. Like, my audience is used to a couple videos a week, and I continue to make a couple videos a week. And basically, If there's a video day after day, I mean, there's always a Friday and Saturday, at least in the past year. If there's a video like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and there's like a bunch in a row, that just means I had an extra video and I needed to slot it in, basically. Yes, I know my latency is big. When I'm moving soon, it will be way better because my internet will be better. Also, I am getting super delayed getting to my main topics. I'm going to try to fly through the rest of the chat, and then I'm going to get onto those, and I'll do more chat later. Should we ditch the term LRT? Let's just say that that's going to come up in in next week's video. Thoughts on the new Via trains? Well, I can't say anything yet. I hope I can make a very interesting video about them. They're cool. When will I be able to buy shares in RM Transit that will pay out a big dividend? What an interesting question. Well, I don't think I'm going to be a publicly traded company anytime soon. But what I will say is that if you if you support me on Patreon or YouTube memberships, you get early access to videos and stuff, which is a nice dividend of videos. So that is the closest option you have. Does Montreal have any plans to electrify or even ramify the rest of EXO? Not currently, but I could see it happening. Make a gaming channel. I don't know if I can handle doing too many more channels. Do you watch Jeff Marshall? Of course. Is a Delhi RRTS video coming up? Yep, definitely. But it's just not going to be... I'm not going to release it right after I do another video on India because I have to cover the whole world. But I would say next month or two it'll come. It's like currently in my sort of queue. How are you doing? I'm good. Thanks, Adam, for asking. Adam always asks, which is much appreciated. What are the odds that Ontario builds Highway 413? Please say unlikely. I'm not sure at the moment, to be honest. I'd love to know what about your job as a transit planner. How did you become one? What course did you study? Your job feels great to me. So let's just say I got into my job because people who were in the industry liked my YouTube videos and thought maybe you probably know a lot about transit, and I interviewed and did all that stuff, and it was confirmed that maybe I knew a lot about transit. And so that was how, by making a lot of transit YouTube videos. It's a very unconventional way of getting into the industry that I probably wouldn't recommend. It is not super replicable, just because YouTube is kind of, it can be a lot of luck sometimes. But yeah, if people have more questions, I'm always happy to chat about it. Do you believe that the US can never have high-speed rail? Because no, it already has some high-speed rail, and I think more can come, but I think it's just challenging. Will you be taking the first GO train to London? I don't think I'll be taking the first train to London, but stay tuned. Will you be... Sorry, I'm literally repeating myself. Which country would you say is the best or friendliest public transit? Japan. Have you looked into the Regio tram proposal for Bogota? I did when I did my Bogota Demystified, but not in super great detail. What's the best metro system in Latin America for you and why? Santiago and Sao Paulo are probably kind of competing for that, in my opinion. But Mexico City is also great, and Buenos Aires. Every system has its own good features. I would say Santiago feels the most modern to me. When is the Crosstown LRT supposed to open, and would you take a trip on it? Of course. Whenever transit line opens, pretty much in Canada at this point, like Edmonton's new line, which, watch the Edmonton video today, please. When that opens, I plan on probably traveling to Edmonton. Hopefully it doesn't open this year because I don't know if I can travel this year. But anything in Ontario, I'm going to be there on day one filming it. Any video on the Mumbai Hyperloop project? I have a no Hyperloop policy on the channel. How do you make so many videos? Well, I think I just kind of broke that down. I'm sorry, I know I'm delayed in the chat. Awesome to hear that India will have 100 metros by 2047. Well, if it does, that would be amazing. Why is it hard to move to a colonial suburb in a metro area? I don't know if I would say it's hard, just that's something that depends on the city. Your channel has been growing really quickly, subscriber count's on the rise. Any plans for the upcoming milestone? If you've watched my channel, you know I make a video whenever I hit certain milestones. You can figure out when the next one will be based on my past videos. Let's just say that, yeah, I have plans for this milestone that's coming up, but I have bigger plans for the milestone that comes after that. How old are you? I'm in my early 20s. How come Seattle is successfully expanding its rail and building tunnels while San Francisco is struggling to open the central subway? I think it's all like a project by project thing. Will you meet Jeff Marshall in London? Hey, maybe tweet at Jeff Marshall and we'll do a collab at some point. I would love to get in touch with him. I've been a fan of his videos for a long time. And I've watched like everyone, including the one across the US, which was awesome. Are you planning a what would I build in Vancouver video? Yep, I am. And I am going to, I think I'm almost at the bottom. So let's fly through this and then I'm going to get talking about those other main topics because, wow, it's almost been 30 minutes. We make a video about Northeast Regional Rail, definitely at some point. Is there a maximum city density that cities can get? Look up the Kowloon Walled City. Thoughts on Burlington Transit? I don't have too many. Which country would you say is the best? Oh, okay. Someone keeps asking the same question. Please don't do that. You should artificially make your videos less frequent to make your Patreon early access more valuable. Just sort of the way my YouTube channel works, that probably wouldn't make sense for me. But recently I have been early releasing almost every video. Unfortunately, it's usually late at night before the video comes out. Not always. There are actually a bunch of videos that have been early released to patrons that have been early released for a while that haven't been released yet. So I'm actually building up a decent backlog while also releasing on a regular basis, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with how things are going. Can you do a video on the Hamilton LRT? I definitely will in the future. Would you consider a video on push-pull trains? Wow, that's such a great idea. Let me make a note about doing that. I'm going to type, warning anyone, if you need to cover your ears or scream, now is the time. Okay, we're done. It's all over. Sorry to send that. Almost done the chat, and then I'm going to get into my main topics for the video. Are the VIA trains capable of high speed? Yes. Las Vegas is not that small, but I think it could warrant rail transit. I really appreciate your work. Please never stop making videos. As long as it is something that I can dedicate my time to, then I plan on not stopping. Amazing to hear Lisbon is building a high-frequency double-decker train line. I'm not a student. I've been graduated for over a year from university, and yeah, YouTube is like a part-time job at this point, if I'm honest. But yes, I have a full-time job as well, as sort of mentioned earlier in the stream. I'm done the chat. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I wasn't sure I would be able to get here. Let me drink some more bubble tea, and yes, I literally have the receipt hanging off of my drink. Oh, mango. It is so good. So, the main topics of today's video. As I always say, if you haven't, link to the next stream down below. I always enjoy talking to people here and tapping people, so set a reminder, come check out the next one. It's going to be in a different location, as I mentioned earlier, because I'm moving in the next week, so wish me luck. That's why I'm working super hard right now to produce most of next week's content this weekend. It's basically 24-hour Reece making videos festival, because I need to pre-produce all these videos so that when I move, if my internet isn't working properly, or if I haven't set up my desk and my computer, I can still release videos for everyone so we don't take a break, which is important because I take this stuff seriously. Also, as I said, I'm going to have better internet, so you can expect streams that don't have as big of a delay. The reason there's a delay is something I can set on the stream, and that way, if the internet basically lags or if there's a gap, the stream doesn't have tons of jumps in it. But I believe the audio still lags the video, and that stuff is, I'm sorry, it's just, it will get better over time, and that's why I don't game stream right now. But yeah, that's the plan for the future. Check out my second channel. It's linked at the top of the chat. It's where I talk about behind the scenes stuff, etc. So if you're a super passionate fan of the channel and you're here at the stream, you probably find that interesting. Just looking. As always, consider supporting the channel via YouTube memberships and Patreon. Every little bit helps, and it helps me bring you more frequent and regular videos, and you get access to a private call on Discord with me every month, which is a lot of fun. You also get early access to videos, you get a station on the Metro map, and you get some blog posts and stuff I do as well. So lots of cool bonuses. Let me see what else I have. So yes, I need to announce a few important policy changes. The first one is, sadly, I am not going to be replying to as many direct messages these days. Sorry. Oh my goodness. The reason is that lately I have been getting swamped with messages, and I feel bad not responding because, like, when I respond to someone, or if I'm really passionate about someone's videos, you know, I want to be able to connect with them. So it feels bad to not be able to always reply to every message. But to give you an idea, like, I was at a movie last night. I had my Instagram. I looked at it before, and I opened it up after the movie a few hours later, and there was about 20 messages. And people are passionate, and I appreciate it. People don't just send a one-line message; they send a detailed message. And I feel terrible not replying to everyone, but it's just difficult sometimes to do it. And I feel like sometimes just replying more broadly, not replying to people, is the most fair way to deal with things. So the question is, how do you get my attention if for some reason you need to? The streams are a great way because I do look at pretty much every message on the stream, so that's a great way of getting in touch with me. I will still check my messages, but it's just no guarantee I can reply to everyone because I'm getting a ton. And honestly, the other night I was thinking, like, you know, I can go reply to a ton of messages, or I can make a video, and I need to keep making videos, right? And YouTube is taking up an increasing amount of my time, and so I just have to sort of reprioritize and keep things organized. Discord is another great way you can kind of be in touch. And another thing to remember is I do read my YouTube comments, primarily the ones that are there like right when the video is released. I usually reply to comments a day or two after the video is released, so that I get a kind of good. I get people upvote the comments they like, and I reply to those ones generally. I reply to a lot of comments, and so that's another great way to get in touch. But there's a few ways, but yeah, just forewarning, I may not be able to reply to as many messages in the future because it's crazy. And I have like burned out in the past on the channel, and I'm proud that I haven't in the last year, because I've been releasing a lot of I release a lot of videos, and so if I don't prioritize that and I spend too much time doing other things, I get into a crunch where I have to make a ton of videos in a short period of time on a regular basis, and it becomes unsustainable. So yeah. Let's see, what else do I want to mention? I also, in general, am not, like, please follow me on Twitter, but I'm not going to be engaging in as much Twitter arguing and stuff, because, again, same reason, mental health's important, but also because just getting in arguments with people on the internet is not helpful, and I don't think anyone here in the stream would do this, because you guys tend to be pretty awesome and cool people. But when people, like, for example, leave comments that are pretty, let's just say, harsh, or they're very, like, I don't know how to put them. If they're just not nicest comments, I'm probably not going to reply to them, because I don't really believe that you can have too much of a serious disagreement or conversation about things you disagree about on the internet, especially not in comments. I should also say further that YouTube, a lot of comments get filtered out, like, for having certain keywords, for having links in them, etc. Like, if you have a link in your comment, it gets put somewhere, and I have to go approve it separately. So that's important to remember too. And the YouTube comment system it can be a bit problematic. Often it's hard to see all of the comments in a thread. It's hard to follow who's talking to who. It's one of the things I definitely am excited for YouTube to work on in the future to improve. But that's something to mention. Now, I do want to mention in a minute or two what the big video coming out next week is, and I want to build the hype because I would love this to be like my most successful video ever, because it's a video I'm going to be very proud of. I can already tell. I'm going to drink my bubble tea. Sorry, just replying to something. Maracas, right? Okay, so the big video coming out next week is the Singapore MRT. It's like one of the most famous rapid transit systems in the entire world. In many ways, it's incredibly innovative. It's very unique. It's very different from a lot of other systems. Um, it's a it's a system that you look at and you're like, wow, I wish my city had a system like this. A lot of the time, it has so many cool features. It's just so interesting. Singapore as a whole is super interesting, and so yeah, that's the video. People have been requesting a video on the Singapore MRT forever, and I think it's like it's like the Hong Kong MTR, and Tokyo and some of these other systems. It's one of the greatest systems in the world. It has so much that other systems can learn from it. So it is a great system for people to learn about, and I'm really excited about this video. I think I'm going to break it down really well, and yeah, I'm super excited about it. It's coming out next Saturday, which is like literally when I'm moving. So yeah, you are the first to know about it because I'm not gonna post about this too widely. Yeah, I'm super excited about the video, and yeah, it's such a fascinating system. So yeah, that is the big announcement there. What else do I have to talk about here? So yes, I promised I would talk about my comparison of London and New York a bit today, and so I will do that. I'm going to look at a few more comments, and then I'm going to do that. I want to move somewhere warm so you can grow mangoes. That's funny. Given that monorails have had fewer fatalities than dual rail systems since their inception, should train networks all be changed to monorail for better safety? Well, I mean that's sort of like saying, I don't know, like, okay, I can't think of a great comparison. I don't know. It's like saying there's not that many monorails. It's a very small sample size, and also monorails aren't like going to form national rail networks. They're not going to be high speed, and so there's so many like forms of trains that monorails are not that they're not really comparable. The actual safety record of like actual metro systems, which are the only thing that monorails sort of compete with, in my opinion, is really strong. More of the issues I think are in national rail and larger, rail networks. So yeah. If the Northland, like the Northland train, is definitely something I will talk about. No worries if you were posting it twice. Yeah, now you know. Honestly, stream quality isn't terrible. That's good to hear. Do you think better battery technology will assist the adoption of trolley buses, or will it mainly replace existing trolleys? I would hope it expands the adoption. When did I mistake singular and plural? I think it's kind of sad, but it's intrinsic to having a growing fan base. Yeah, no, you're definitely right. And I mean, at the end of the day, the main way I communicate with the base, if I can call it a fan base, is through videos. And so, yeah, and the B channel is kind of where I do it more casually, so we can have those casual conversations. Python or Java, whew, I have quite a history with both of those programming languages. I don't know if I could say one. I don't know if I would say Reddit's good for discussions. Have you played GeoGuessr? Tons. Great game. The problem with arguing with people on the internet is that you don't know who is on the other side. Absolutely. But what I would also say is that's true when you're commenting too. Not just on my videos, but on anyone's videos. A lot of YouTubers read your comments, and when you're spending like hours and hours working on something a week, remember, people they'll take your comment pretty seriously if you're like, this video was terrible or something like this, or something really personal. You have to remember that this is like super personal for a lot of people. If a YouTuber is large or if they're regularly producing videos, they're serious about it, and so you gotta try to be nice. it's always the opposite. The stuff that you put a lot of effort in does okay, and the video you didn't put much effort blows up. I wouldn't necessarily say that, but I would say that is true some of the time. It's definitely the case. Like, I don't know. I did the video where I visited all the SkyTrain stations in Vancouver. Ton of effort, didn't do that amazing. I have had videos with less effort that did better. I would say you generally know though when things are going to do well. Well, that's a good idea. Talking about Union Station's renovation. I have talked about it a bit, but not, I don't think, in a dedicated video. So that's a good idea. Thanks, Sam. Much appreciated. The nice comment. Do you have a team or an editor? Because you keep saying we in your videos, which sometimes comes across as slightly jarring. Really love your videos. So that's an interesting question. If you followed the channel for a long time, you'll know that the channel originally had multiple people on it. Me and my, let's say, partner, significant other. Unfortunately, because of like internet drama, that my partner doesn't want to be part of the channel anymore because like of how personal people get on the internet, and which is sad because I think they were really appreciated. But when I say we, I'm sort of talking about it like we're a community, like let's us look at this transit system together. Let's us talk about something. So that's kind of why I use the term, because I do think about it as sort of a conversation with the viewership. Haha, should Turks and Caicos join Canada? I don't know about that. Okay, let's talk about London versus New York. So, first of all, is comparing them reasonable? I think so. The systems were both developed during the early 1900s and through to the kind of the middle of the 1900s. London has expanded more recently than New York has, but I think they're super comparable because they're the two biggest English-speaking cities. They obviously had a lot of cross-contamination where people were traveling between them, so they got to experience them. So definitely I think they're comparable, and the populations are not too dissimilar between the cities. They both have legacy rail networks that are quite interesting. So I think they're super comparable. It's interesting because they do feel different. New York feels more... It feels less like a lot of other metro systems than London does, because London has its distinct lines and not as much of the quad tracking and interlining and stuff. Not to say that, like, for example, the Metropolitan line has quad tracking and express trains and stuff, but it's just not that common compared to New York. And it's not in the core sections, right? It's more of a suburban thing for higher speed services, which is kind of interesting because that's sort of less what New York has, which I think is interesting. I do think that it's often interesting to look at London because it's like, what would New York be like if New York had kept investing? I mean, I'm not saying New York hasn't invested, but not at the scale London has, of course, not close to it. And I think it's a little sad, but it also should make you a little optimistic because New York, like London, shows what is possible for New York, right, in the future. So I'm just going to lay down some things that I think that London does or London has done that I think would be really fascinating changes to see in New York in the future that don't necessarily cost that much. So the first thing I'm going to say is a lot of station upgrades and improvements. You do see that in New York, but I would say it's more widespread in London, and refurbishments, expansions, etc. All of that's really exciting. Again, this is something where they're more comparable between the systems. But yeah, I think that's super fascinating. Also, London has seen some infill stations, which I don't think New York really has seen infill stations. Another interesting opportunity, especially in like Queens and other areas that are developing quickly, to have some brand new stations. And I think that one of the problems in New York is that the insistence is building all of this new super expensive core service when there's so many different locations where you could build new stations, like on the Long Island Railroad, on elevated and surface portions of the existing New York subway, bringing back parts of the subway that were shut down. all of these are really great opportunities to expand coverage. And in a world where downtown peak capacity matters less, more coverage and all day service and all day coverage, it's a lot more important. So I think that's a very interesting thing to talk about. Until recently, I would have said that the fact that London has a smart card is relevant. But I would still say, and because Omni is here now, and the Omni card is here, and actually some very awesome folks are sending me one. One person is sending me one, which is super exciting. I'm actually going to be getting a PO box. I had one in the past so that people could send me transit maps and cards from their local systems, and I'm going to bring that back when I move. So, spoilers, you found out about that early. So if you have something super interesting you're thinking about sending me, maybe put it in the chat, and I'll tell you what I think and stuff like that. But so that's another interesting thing is the fare card system, but also just the fare gates. I'm sorry, I've never been a fan of turnstiles. I'm not a fan of the way accessibility with turnstiles is done in New York. I would love to see New York move to modern fare gates. Maybe someone in New York can comment on if that's like a thing that's planned at all, but just flappy paddle gates or the kind that kind of go like this. All of this would be great to see in the future. So that's another comment. The next thing I would say is rolling stock and modern rolling stock. New York insists on continuing to buy rolling stock that I think is very dated in a lot of ways, and it's good to see the R211s have some improvements. But okay, I want more drastic design improvements. I want an improved interior design. I do think, like on lines that are less busy, introduce some transverse seating. I know it's weird to say, but New York is a system that I'm sure can spare capacity on some lines. So that's actually something I'm okay with, especially because the lines are incredibly long in parts of New York. So that's another thing. Next thing is bring the Long Island Railroad and Metro North into a London Overground style fare scheme and make them more like and make them more like the Overground. The Omni card is, they actually have a proper card. It came out like the last week. It's not just a credit card. It's a very interesting looking transit card now. Let me continue. One thing like that you might not consider that I love about the Overground is that the trains look distinctly like the Underground trains with a different color scheme, but they look similar, and so that would be something that would be cool to see on Metro North and Long Island Railroad. Their trains do not look that similar right now to the subway, besides being stainless steel. What else did I want to mention? Fully walk-through trains have been a thing in London for quite some time. New York needs to invest in resignaling so it can have higher frequency and lower maintenance costs and higher reliability, which are one of the big benefits of resignaling because you don't have as much physical infrastructure, which is great. Someone is asking if I'm still checking the Google form for fare card and map donations. I have not in a long time, but I will do that. My kind of approach now is if you want to send me something, send me an email. But yeah. Another thing London does great, the tube is connected directly to Heathrow. It would be great to see the New York City subway connected directly to JFK. And since there's some lines terminating at Jamaica, I believe, I'm sorry, my memory is bad, but there's definitely lines, maybe multiple lines terminating at Jamaica. Extend one of those to JFK. Maybe not the easiest thing, but it's possible. And at the same time, the Long Island Railroad could connect to JFK. There's a line that goes right near JFK that could have a spur tunnel added to it. That would be awesome. New York is a weird city because it has like no express rail, air rail link, and the people movers at the airport don't really help. I get that you have multiple terminals is difficult, but yeah, creating an underground connection to the subway so you have a direct subway connection, you don't have to ride the air train, would be awesome. And bringing the Long Island Railroad direct to the airport would be awesome. Interestingly, with the new governor of New York, it looks like, and this is really exciting, the subway could get extended to LaGuardia. There's like apparently pushback, and I'm not super familiar with the... Are you drinking bubble tea? Yes, I am. There's been pushback, but that would be awesome to see as a first step. And then also, like, think about this, okay? It excites me immensely, the idea of having the Astoria line to LaGuardia, so you have direct connections to the subway to LaGuardia, and then bringing one of those lines that goes to Jamaica to JFK. It's expensive. It's a decent distance, but it's a very doable project. There doesn't have to be a ton of stations, so there's that. And the path to Newark, doing all three of these, there's like basically there's a very clear path to connect every one of New York City, the New York City region's major airports to the subway, because the path is essentially an extension of the subway, and it should be integrated more. It should all be under the same umbrella, in my opinion. Obviously, it's okay they accept the Metro card, and I'm not sure what the status with Omni in the path is. I'm sure someone will tell me in the chat. But connecting up the path to Newark and having subway connections to like Manhattan from all of the airports would be so awesome and such a big benefit. And you can keep the air train. Just that's more connectivity options, which is always a good thing. And maybe that allows for easier 24-hour access. For example, you can close one at one time and maintain the other. It's so good. What else do I want to comment on? More transit-oriented development. I know that the Battersea Power Station extension was a little controversial because it's heavily funded by super expensive, like, luxury development, right? But I think that, I think that's also kind of how the Hudson Yards extension worked. But I think in key places, it's an okay model for expanding the network, especially if, if you have an area that's not super developed, there's not a ton there right now, and you turn it into a high-density location. It's quite luxury-oriented, but it still has some public amenities, it has parks, etc. I take that as a positive. So yeah, that's my thinking on that. I'm just going on about New York and London, but these are all things I think New York needs to learn from London. Just colored trains, come on. I like the blue and gold, but let's expand that. Let's make that a proper full train color scheme. Do we have any more comments? More public art. I mean, New York does it really well already. Like, it's one of those big subway systems that has tons of public art and stations, and I love that. But again, I think London beats it, and so it'll follow up with London on that. Regional rail is obviously critical. High-speed rail, all of these things need a ton of work. Penn Station needs the Gateway project, and it needs to be built properly. Wider platforms. A DLR-style system in New York would be amazing for, like, Long Island City, for example. Or, like, for the BQX route, like the Brooklyn Queens, like, light rail route. Make that like a DLR. Why build it as, like, a tram? I think that's a mistake. A DLR-style system would draw a ton of ridership. It would be faster and, like, so I would probably be more supportive of that. But yeah, so many things to think about with London and New York, and there's so many things that London and New York could actually learn from each other. There's some things that New York does well that London could learn from. For example, express services are good, I suppose. 24-hour services, I guess London kind of did learn from that. There's other things, the super high density development over connected to rail and stuff. There's things New York does well, but I think there's a lot to learn from London. I think there's a lot of value there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at the chat. Again, I'm going to mention if you haven't already, set a reminder for the next chat, which is coming in 2 weeks. They're every 2 weeks. That would be much appreciated. Consider following/subscribing to my second channel, which is at the top of the chat box, pinned. What else? I'm moving next week, as I've mentioned a lot of times. Staten Island rail connection to Manhattan, definitely. Come on, let's extend. Think about this. What if you extended the Staten Island Railroad and it's called the Staten Island Railroad, right? Or is it just the Staten Island Railway? I think it's the railway, right? Yes, SIR. What if that were to, like, connect up to the 2nd Avenue subway? They both use the same lettered rolling stock, right? That's an interesting option, because then you would have through service through Manhattan to Staten Island. Because I was thinking, okay, like, we're going to extend the Staten Island Railway to New York. We don't necessarily just want it to terminate at World Trade Center or somewhere in the financial district. So what if you have some way of extending it north, and it's like, oh, well, the Second Avenue line is going to terminate in the financial district. Why don't we just connect those two lines and form a single artery? That sounds quite interesting, actually. Innovative. We're doing innovation together here in the live stream. The last thing I'll say before I get back to the chat is, if you're not already, consider supporting on Patreon or via YouTube memberships to get cool emojis, early access to videos, and to help me make more videos. But also just sharing, liking, subscribing, watching today's Edmonton video, all of these things help me make more videos. So here's someone saying, when you do talking head videos, are you going to add new decorations in the background when you move, like maps or photos? That's a very interesting question, and I will make the open call to the 84 people watching right now, and hopefully future people watching. If your city has a cool metro map and it's high quality and you know how to get a copy of it, if you send me it, and you talk to me before you send me it, so I make sure that that everything is good, I will put it up on the wall behind me in the new place, and I will cake the wall with posters if need be. So if you're from London and you can get me a full-size tube map poster, for example, send it to me. I will put it on the wall. If you're from New York and get me a New York poster, if you're from literally anywhere that you can get me a cool transit-related poster, one of metro systems of the world, one of a map of your city, all of these things, if you can do it, send me an email, and there's a good chance that I'll say, here's my P.O. box, send me it, and I will put it up on the wall behind me and give you a shout out in a video. So yes, I will be putting stuff up behind me, and I would love the community to help decide what that looks like. Do you think automated, I'm going to call them pods, not taxi cabs, are very inefficient? Not necessarily, but it's a system that you need a very specific use case for. Do you think gondolas will become more common? Probably. Should theme parks have rail rapid transit connections, or are buses enough? That depends. You have to remember that it's not just about, there's so many factors, right? So in Toronto, we have a park called Canada's Wonderland that's mainly active during the summer. It's not really a year-round thing, though that is changing. That would be an example of where I would say no, because if you don't have like a year-round park, like water parks, for example, then it's not necessarily a great idea. If you have Disneyland, then it might make a lot of sense, like in Hong Kong, for example. Also, the benefit in Hong Kong is that it's not really its own dedicated line that's kind of a lighter rolling stock and etc. So it wasn't super expensive. Hong Kong has a good climate, so it can be open year round, and so that's relevant too. You have to think like, so if there's a theme park in the middle of nowhere, middle of nowhere theme parks, it's a lot less practical than if you have, say, a situation where there's a theme park and you have a subway line nearby, and extending it would be maybe above ground or elevated, and it's quite practical. Then there's a case to be made, right? It's all about, what is the barrier to doing it? What is the opportunity? How busy is it? Is it a year-round thing? There's a lot of questions. Should I make a video about this? I should make a video about this. I'm going to add a note to make a video about this. Okay, let's continue. What are your thoughts on the child presto rules? The fact that adults can't use child presto? I think that makes sense. I can totally understand your partner not wanting to be publicly online. Personally, I tend to avoid posting photos with me in it. Yeah, for sure. And it's weird for me even to be online, and like you don't always get nice comments. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's just kind of the way the world works. And yeah, that's the situation. New York has lots of neighborhoods that are connected by bus or subway. Yeah, but there's a lot that aren't too. I don't necessarily agree that New York subway should be privatized. I don't necessarily think that's the answer to every problem New York has. Have you made any videos on SBB? Love the trains in Switzerland when I was there. No, I haven't. Switzerland is like up there with Singapore for places that I should cover that I haven't. It'll get covered, for sure. No doubt. I will travel there, for sure, in the future of the channel. Like, I will visit Switzerland I will film it. So yes, it's planned. Do you see the removal of elevated rapid transit in downtowns in the 19th century as a mistake? Yes. Thoughts on Quebec City's LRT plans? I am doing a video on that this month. New York subway trains have so much metal. Yes. New York's network is honestly only good outside of Queens and Staten Island. That's a lot of New York, though. It actually struggles in other areas. Like the Bronx doesn't have much east-west coverage. And by not much, I believe like basically none. What's your opinion on open fare systems like in Germany? It has a lot of potential benefits, but it has some potential downsides too. Fare evasion is a real problem you can have, but it also makes building stations potentially easier, less expensive, and makes the system simpler to use. Yes, Tehran does have a very big and interesting metro system. Can you make a video about Dallas light rail expansion? Not my top priority, but maybe at some point. I don't necessarily support having no fare gates, to be honest, but I do believe that there are some benefits. London also does have a lot of non-TfL rail services. Yep, but Amtrak, NJ Transit, and Long Island Railroad could be unified with the same electrical system. Do you think CT Rail could be merged with Metro North? Probably. How long would it take to walk from LaGuardia to the nearest subway station? I'm not actually sure. How do you feel about the privatization of Amtrak in the Northeast Corridor? I don't have any strong feelings on it. It's not something I necessarily think about. I don't think it necessarily would have to be terrible. Like if you do a London, England-style franchise system, I don't necessarily think it would be a great thing either. I think that it's one of those things that like some private railways are great, some are not. It really depends. Omni is very useful. I use it all the time. And it's a lot easier than the MetroCard. I haven't been to New York since Omni has existed, at least since it's been widely deployed, and so I'm super excited to visit and use it. Haha, New York rides electric rail to Jamaica. Amtrak can't even run electric to Florida. You're doing a great job publicizing public transit. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. How could Penn Station become more like Grand Central? I'm not sure that's something you want, because Penn Station is the through station, Grand Central is not. Crossrail is an express service, kind of like RER versus Metro. Yep, exactly. So I already addressed that. Thinking about an orbital RAM thing from Hoboken and Jersey City to Staten Island and thence to Brooklyn and Queens, that would be super interesting. And probably a great project. Should all transit agencies in the GTA merge into one? There's a case to be made for it. Do you think the Staten Island Railroad should become more like a regional rail line? Yeah, possibly, with more express service and stuff. What are your opinions on outdated infrastructure? Shut down to the bottom. What are your opinions on outdated infrastructure and rolling stock being used well? If maintained correctly, they can add a lot of soul to an integral system, like the old U-Bahn stock in Berlin. I think it's fine. Old rolling stock can last a really long time as long as it's refurbished. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Have you ever thought about covering London's commuter and regional rail? Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'll absolutely talk about it in the future. Videos are 100% planned on it. What do you think about Euston's Metronext plan? I'm not super familiar with it, but I'm also not necessarily that optimistic because I'm not the biggest fan of Euston's transit network. But hey, expansion is always good, and I'm always going to support a city expanding its transit. Though light rail is not necessarily my favorite way to do it in North America. Where do you think the Ontario line will be extended west of Exhibition? Also, where would you like it to be extended to? I don't want it to be extended to Dundas West, and really don't want it to be extended to Dundas West along the rail corridor because that's super duplicative. On the east side, I feel like it matters less because we're trying to build this initial segment. Once we have the line, I'm a little more flexible to taking different routes, and also, if we're honest, the east side, has a lot of coverage. Both sides of the city have a lot of coverage from streetcars, but there's more need for further west connectivity, like on Jane, and I think that would be a great opportunity to connect over to Jane. What do you think about subway ring lines? I need to make a video about that too. I think I already have a plan about it, but that's also going to be in the Singapore video because they have a circle line that isn't a circle. you think Chicago should or will get a circumferential metro line? Oh, it should get one. Will it get one? Sadly, I'm not so sure. Do you think light rail would work in New York City? I don't think trams are a good idea for New York City. I'm going to do a video on rural rail because I need to make one, so I've just added it to my list of videos to make. I'm basically done the stream for today. It's been a long stream, and I am so tired because I stayed up late working on this Singapore video. Thank you so much to everyone for coming. Please consider watching today's Edmonton video. It really could use your views. And also, consider watching other RM Transit videos. We have like hundreds of videos now, so if you haven't watched the backlog, I think I made some good videos back in the day that you can learn a lot about transit from, and that might be interesting to you. So yeah, I'll stick around for a minute or two more in case any final chat messages come through that I want to respond to. I don't have a strong opinion on the U5 versus M10 extension. But yeah, it's been great chatting with everyone. Always enjoy doing streams. Set a reminder for next time. And yeah, I hope to see everyone again. Ontario line, I don't think any of the streetcar routes need to be replaced. They do totally different rules. LRT can work if you do it sort of like a hybrid regional system like Calgary. I think that's a good opportunity. Can freight railways rely on diesel/electric trains? They already rely on diesel trains, so I'm not necessarily sure the question. Thoughts on transit in Charlotte? They have their light rail network, but it's nothing too amazing. I don't think service is that good, unfortunately, which is a problem common to American light rail networks. Who do you think will build the replacement trains for TTC when the T1s die? That's up in the air. Maybe Alstom, maybe Hitachi, maybe Siemens. Ooh, a Pronto card or a Charlotte Lynx ticket. Send me an email. Email's linked in the channel info box, and we can get in touch. Okay, I think that's it for today. So thanks everyone for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Stay tuned. There's going to be some good videos in the next week and coming up.